The 651st edition of the Four Corners podcast starts right now.
This is the Four Corners podcast.
Elton ready on his second attempt. That one is no good. They battle for it. Loose ball. Recovered Marvin. He scores. 17 seconds left. And he was fouled. Here we go. Lawson with a runner. No. The rebound. Hansbrough at the gun. Got it.
They were 4 for 24.
Hansbrough on a switch on Paulus. A deep three. And Green rips down the rebound in traffic. 4-on-1.
What a great job. What a terrific job in transition. I mean, you couldn't plan that any better as a coach.
Tipped away by Johnson. It's loose. Page. Johnson.
They're dancing in the aisles. They're high-fiving. They're celebrating. They're going bananas on Franklin Street.
Pass to Britt, 15 seconds to play. Up high to Page, gets a screen from Meeks. Page driving in on the left, high off the glass for two. Louisville with 7 seconds. Jones has it, goes left corner, Black's here for three. Back iron, 1 second to play, stick up, no! Carolina wins it! The Tar Heels win it! 72-71. 6 seconds to go. Pinson comes front court. Pinson to May for the win. Got it! Luke May! He got it! 0.3 of a second! Luke May gives Carolina the 75-73 lead. Are you kidding me?
Inside 30 overall. Love, top of the key. Oh! Big time delivery.
Here are your hosts, Josh Marlowe and Anthony Pagnotta.
Hello and welcome into another edition of the Four Corners podcast. We are powered by Carolina Electrical Services. Josh here with you guys, and we are joined by former Tar Heel, former national champion, and former most outstanding player of the 2017 Final Four. And he's become a good friend of the show. You know him, you love him. He is Joel Berry II. Joel, welcome to the show. Hope you and your family stayed safe, stayed warm during the weather storm that made its way through the East Coast this weekend. How are you doing today, my man?
Yeah, man, we survived. We didn't get what we thought, which is good, but we got enough to be able to take the kids out and start sledding. And my first time, I'm a Florida boy, so that was my first time hopping on the sled, so that was fun. So we're all safe, all sound. And glad to see you here as well, and glad to be able to be on the show.
Nah, man, look, I always love talking to you. We usually bring you on once or twice a year. After you put out your detailed tweet after the California loss, I said, man, we gotta get Joel on. The good news is there's been some good stuff that's happened since the West Coast trip. But we do got to talk about some of those defensive struggles. I noticed when the intro was playing, you were a part of some of my highlights, but there wasn't a Joel Berry highlight that's in my highlight reel. If there's one highlight of your career that could be in our opening video montage, what highlight would that be?
I would just the kind of the Sports Illustrated that's in the background right now.
Yeah.
That's the moment I would show. That was what I wanted to do at Carolina. My whole thing was leaving a legacy. And part of leaving the legacy was winning a national championship. You know, you can win and you win a lot of games, but you go down in history as greats when you put up a banner in the Smith Center. So that's the one that I would love to be remembered as.
I've got that Sports Illustrated at home. That moment, yeah. I did really think, encapsulated who you were as a player during your tremendous career at Carolina. Someone that's leaving a legacy, whether he wins a national championship or not, is going to be Caleb Wilson, because he's having, Joel, in my opinion, from a statistical standpoint, the best freshman season we've ever seen. He's averaging basically 20 and 10. He's shooting well over 50% from the field. He would shoot a better 3-point percentage if he shot more threes, I feel like, but he doesn't have to because he's so dominant 12 feet and in. He's the unquestioned best player on this team, but I feel like in the last week and a half, he's emerged as the voice of this team as well. What has stood out to you watching him play so far during his freshman career? And are we putting a limit on what he could accomplish, and what's going to be his one season in Chapel Hill?
I mean, what he's already done is going to go down as one of the best, not only the best freshman, but one of the best players to ever put on that jersey and to walk in the Smith Center, which is saying a lot with the history that has gone through this program with players. But what I like about him is you kind of alluded to it, the fact that he, doesn't shoot a lot of threes. I quite honestly like it because if it's not broke, don't fix it. And, they can't stop him inside. So why go and shoot, from the outside if they can't even stop what you do? What's your main ingredient? And so I love the fact that he keeps it simple. You look at the way that he plays, he's kind of like he reminds me of like a giraffe a little bit. Like he's very all over the place, but he's controlled at the same time. And he keeps it simple. Like, he doesn't dribble the ball quite a bit. He gets it there inside the paint or inside the 3-point line, and he just uses that athleticism. But Josh, the reason why he's doing what he's doing is because you can't, there's some things you just can't script how to stop it. Like you can bring a double team when he catches it on the post, but then that ball goes up in the air, and while you think the play is over, here he comes skying over your head, putting it on your head for a dunk. Or it's just like the hustle plays, being able to use that athleticism and being able to put it in the basket. So those are what I call unscripted plays that teams just can't game plan for.
What do you make of, because and I'm sure you heard this during your time at Carolina, we know the school 8 miles down the road, they put a high premium on bringing in freshmen and developing them. Kansas, Kentucky, some of the other programs.
Yeah.
Carolina traditionally, has been more, we're going to build. We want guys 2, 3, 4 years in the program. And a lot of people thought it was a knock that Carolina couldn't maybe coach or develop a talent like Caleb Wilson. What do you say to that after you see what Caleb Wilson has done? And do you expect this to maybe improve what they do recruiting some of those top echelon 5 stars coming out of high school?
Yeah, I think it always helps. And I think that's why traditionally Carolina always, brought in 5-star recruits. I don't know why a lot of people put the brakes on the fact that, that Carolina is more of a development. I mean, it is, but if you look at some of the one and dones, like there's been quite a few of them. And they've gone on and had great careers. I just think, it's from a coaching standpoint, you look at Carolina, it's a family, it's a family. And a lot of guys choose to stay around because of the camaraderie of the family in Carolina. But, they never shied away from guys that wanted to come in and, go on and go to the NBA. That's the whole goal. So I think you look at Caleb Wilson, bringing in what he has done, Cole Anthony, I'm just thinking about recent guys, Kobe White, like you want to do one and done. And look, this is the place for you. So, it is still development, but those one and done still have a opportunity to come to Carolina and be able to move on if that's what they see is best fit for what they want to do.
Let's talk about his front court mate. Henry Vasar has been one of the best transfer portal additions, not just in the ACC, but in all of college basketball, averaging nearly a double-double as well. I really loved the addition when he came over from Arizona. Carolina prioritized him. They landed him. But even I've been blown away by, I think, the efficiency. He's shooting, well above 60% from the field, nearly 50% from three. Did you see this coming from him when you were breaking down the tape, when you were breaking down the film, or did it take you maybe going to a practice or watching the first couple of games to be like, oh, Carolina maybe got something more than what they thought they got initially?
Yeah, you just never know. And Henry Vasar is one of those guys that just didn't have a lot of tape because he was playing around playing behind some really good bigs at Arizona. So it wasn't that he was just sitting on the bench for no reason. But you saw glimpses, and when you look at some of those tapes, you're like, okay, this guy has something. But I didn't expect it to be this way. And what a dynamic duo between him and Caleb Wilson, like complementary on all levels with those two. And it took me a couple of games, and that's all it took for me to see. Especially there was one time he caught the ball and dunked it backwards. And I was like, yeah, this might be something special between these two. And you can kind of see that high-low early on in the season where you're like, okay, we can see something happening long-term. So it took a couple of games, but man, those two together down low, one of the best front courts in the country. And it's hard to stop them. And man, the ceiling for this team is great when you get the other pieces going.
Yeah, look, I think in the day and age where we see a bunch of spacing and a bunch of fours shooting threes, I love the high-low game. It's not the same way that your team did it with Meeks and Isaiah Hicks, but they're really fun to watch the way they execute. They've got such great chemistry, and it's going to be what's going to carry them wherever they end up going. Let's talk about the position that you played, and you played at such the high level, because we got to look at it from two folds. There's a positive, and I guess there's a negative. We'll start with the positive, man. Derek Dixon, in 3 starts, has scored in double figures all 3 times. He showed a level of toughness on Saturday that you need from a Carolina point guard, that we're used to seeing from a Carolina point guard. What have you made about him in his first handful of starts? And I looked at his game, and I see a mini Kendall Marshall in him.
Yeah.
Is that comparison apt, or do you maybe see a different player when you look at Derek Dixon and his brief Carolina career?
Yeah, I think he's going to have to make some more passes and great passes to be up there with Kendall, man. That dude can pass with the best of them. But I see where everyone's coming from with the Kendall Marshall similarities. He has great size. He does. I think that's the difference maker, is he gets the game moving for Carolina. Like a lot of times Carolina gets to a point where they get very stagnant in what they do. To have someone out there who can come off those screen and rolls and being able to see over the defense and be able to get that ball movement to those players that in scoring places, I think it just permeates throughout the team. Like I noticed in that Virginia game, like one of the plays that sticks out to me was, Jaren Stevenson and Henry Vasar got the ball in the corner, and Henry Vasar was the one that threw it to Jaren Stevenson for the dunk at the rim. Like when you have a guy out there that's moving the ball, other guys, it's infectious. So I think having Derek Dixon out there just gives this team a different dynamic. And then most importantly, what he can do is knock down the 3. And when you have those weapons on the floor, the point guard has to be able to, more than anything, be able to knock down the 3. It's no knock on Kyan Evans. Sometimes people take just, movement in different systems. It takes a little bit to figure out. So it's no knock on him. You got to do what's best for the team. And Hubert Davis and his staff felt that Derek Dixon has been playing well. And like Coach Davis says all the time, we don't just give minutes. You have to earn them. And you can tell by the way that he's playing, he's been earning those minutes.
Let's talk about Kyan Evans, because I still think Carolina is going to need his shooting if they want to win the type of games that we want to win, especially when we get into March. And I was really high on him when he came over from Colorado State. I thought he was going to be a natural fit. I loved his ability to finish around the basket. You love the 3-point shooting. And I thought that, there was some toughness in him as well. For whatever reason, that player hasn't shown up in a Carolina uniform outside of really the second half against Kansas and some other glimpses against other opponents. What do you think has been the biggest reason he has struggled? Do you think it's just the fact that this is Carolina and there's so many people like me that have an opinion? Do you think it's a physical limitation, or because I think we could talk about how much Carolina financially invested in him, but
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of tape that suggested he was going to be a difference maker. And so far in his first, 18 games or so, that hasn't been the case.
Yeah, I mean, I know Carolina fans don't want to hear anything about NC State, but Darren Williams is a guy over at NC State, kind of same, had one of those big runs in the NCAA tournament, and then all of a sudden, this guy is showcased, and you're like, all right, well, we have them on our team now, and they just really don't. It's not that they haven't panned out. It's just sometimes that adjustment period is a little bit longer. It goes beyond just putting the ball in the basket. At the beginning of the season, coaches try to figure out different lineups and what players work best with one another. Like, it's not just about throwing your 5 best players on the floor. It's about, okay, who complements each other in a way that allows everyone to play to their strengths. And so with Kyan Evans going to the bench, it doesn't mean that he's a lesser player than what he has shown. Everyone knows that he can play. That's why he's at Carolina. I just think having Derek Dixon in the lineup just complements the starters a little bit better than Kyan. I give an example of a guy that I end up starting over in Nate Britt, and who was a 5-star recruit, really good player. And it just didn't work that, with him being in the starting lineup, it did for me. And so, but when you look at, okay, our national championship team, why did we win? It was because Nate Britt was coming off the bench and he complemented our second lineup. So I think we still got to give Kyan Evans some more time to adjust. Some guys just don't adjust quick enough for systems. But it's hard in this era, like you said, when you're putting so much investment in players, you're like, we need you right away, buddy. So I get that, but it goes beyond just putting the ball in the basket. We could see Kyan Evans have a better role in that secondary group, and give him a little bit more comfortability with spearheading that second group.
Yeah, he scored 9 points against Notre Dame. I was hoping maybe that was going to be a step in the right direction, because I mentioned I think Carolina's going to need his shooting. One thing Hubert Davis talks about, and this one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on, is he wants to play with 2-point guards on the floor. And he really points back to that 2015-2016 season with you and Marcus Page, and he said, I like that.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen a lot of Dixon Evans lineups. Maybe with the week off, they can try to implement that. When you go back to that season, when did y'all find out that y'all were going to be the perfect marriage? Because I thought, as a fan going into the year, that was still very high on you. I thought you were going to be that second unit guy, the guy that would come in and run the second unit, but you and Marcus complement each other so well. Could you see that maybe panning out down the road where Derek Dixon and Kyan Evans are sharing the same backcourt?
Yeah, you could. I mean, it's just, how does that fit into how Carolina plays? And you got other guys on there like Seth and Jaron Stevenson. So how does it kind of play out with those guys? I like having 2-point guards on the floor, because when your big gets the rebound, you can have an outlet on both sides, and it makes the offense or the defense to offense kind of seamless. With not just always trying to find the primary point guard. You give the ability to get the ball up the floor a little bit quicker. So I like that. And there's a possibility that it could. I mean, you could either see Seth Trimble and Kyan Evans together, or you could see Derek Dixon and Kyan Evans together. I think the possibilities are there. It just depends. It's just like the flow of the game. How is it working? But having 2-point guards, to me, is always beneficial, because you also have playmaking all over the floor as well. And then you tie in Caleb Wilson being able to pull the ball off the backboard and being able to dribble up as well. You just make it a lot faster. So I think that's where you see some promise with having those two on the floor. But again, I always talk about flow and rhythm. It's just how do those pieces fit together? And for Marcus and myself, it just fit to have both of us, because we complemented each other well, just kind of like Henry Vasar and Caleb Wilson does.
We're talking with former Carolina basketball player, national champion, most outstanding player of the 2017 Final Four, Joel Berry II. One more question on the point guard spot, and then we'll move in a different direction. I'll get you out of here. Carolina's playing at their slowest pace since the 2000 season. That was Bill Guthridge's final season. Now, that team would go on to make the Final Four. My question to you is this. As a fan that grew up watching Roy Williams and the secondary break, Carolina running was a given. They were going to run. They were going to play in transition. How much of that responsibility falls on the shoulders of Derek Dixon and Kyle Evans to get the tempo where I think us as fans are used to seeing it, because where we see Carolina play a lot in the half court, and that's not something that I think Hubert Davis wants to play, and that's not something for Carolina fans that are my age are used to seeing this program play.
Yeah, I mean, it's, there are different factors to it. Not many post-ups anymore, even though Caleb Wilson and Henry Vasar post up quite a bit, but it's not as much as our traditional bigs used to. Another factor that I don't see as much that we saw with Elliot Cadeau, but we haven't seen this much with this group, is the kick ahead pass. Yeah. We used to drill the heck out of that, because what it does is it just flattens out the defense, and then you could be able to throw it into the post. Or like a couple of times, what surprised me in that Virginia game was like Jaren Stevenson got a rim run. Caleb Wilson got a rim run pass. And maybe, Josh, that's something that they saw in that game. And they're like, you go back to film and coach is able to say, hey, that's what we need to do more. We need to do more of that. And so that's a possibility. But I think, sometimes the fast pace gets a little miscued. Like sometimes it's just about coming over half court playing with good pace. And I think that's probably where this team is more of when it comes to that pace, more than it was with our traditional Carolina teams, with having, ball comes out of the basket, point guard gets it. You have the guard at the free, half court line, someone in the corner, you kick it up that sideline, and that post is rim running for a quick post up. We just don't see that anymore because the game has changed. And so we, as fans, as much as we want to see it, it's just the game is totally different than when we played. And so I get it because that stuff, I mean, it was getting down the floor and we were smacking dudes right in the face before they could wake up. And so I get it, but it's just a little bit, the game is a little bit different, where post-ups just aren't as prevalent as they were in the past.
Another sign that the game has changed, and the way Carolina's wanting to, I think, adapt in the modern style, is the international flavor that you have seen really infiltrate college basketball. You look at Illinois, I mean, their whole entire starting five is full of international guys, and Hubert Davis went and got one this offseason in Luca Boavox, who, helped Carolina get the win at Virginia, scored 14 big points, and is really starting to shoot the ball the way we thought he was going to shoot the ball when he arrived in Chapel Hill back earlier this summer. What have you thought about the way he has made the adjustment to the American game and the collegiate game, which maybe isn't as advanced as the pro league he was playing in overseas in terms of schemes, but I do think he is seeing a different level of physicality than what you see over there in Europe.
Yeah, I just think it's a different game. You play with more space and have more spacing in the American game, a lot faster, a lot quicker. So that takes time. Also, like, this is a brand new team that's still, that you just traditionally don't have. Like, the only starter returning is Seth Trimble. Everyone else is brand new. So, like, for me, I knew when Justin Jackson was coming off a pin down, I knew to bounce that ball at the free throw line. He catches that thing on the run and does the floater that we all love to see. Like, that's where I think for Luca Boavox and a lot of these guys, it's just about being able to get that feel and understanding where does my floor mate like to have the ball. And I think we saw that in that Virginia game. And so I think it takes time with that. But if he can continue to shoot the ball at the rate that he did against Virginia, I think that's going to be a huge factor. And to me, Josh, like it wasn't the shot, it was the way, like his confidence and his lift. Like it looked like when it came off his hand, it was one of those ones where you pull your hand back really quickly. Like, I know this is going in.
Mm-hmm.
And I just saw that confidence and I was like, that's it right there. And that's what gave me the cue of, okay, this game is starting to slow down a little bit for him. When I saw the rise in his shot, you could feel that confidence.
Yeah, I thought Coach Davis did a really good job. He called 2 sets for him late in the first half.
Yeah.
Got him 2 wide open threes on the wing. He buried them. I think that's where he likes the ball. It's just a matter of, as you mentioned, getting him the ball in his spots where he's catching and shooting in rhythm. All right, a couple more, Joel, and I'll get you out of here. So, you know, what led me to bring you on was after the West Coast trip, you went back, you said you rewatched the game against Cal, and you put out a 8 to 10 bullet point tweet about what you saw in that game. And I went over the tweet point for point. I said, hey, look, this is what a national champion is seeing. I'm going to relay that information to you. When you go back and you look at that West Coast trip, how beneficial do you think that could have been in the long run? Because, you know, I think as fans, you know, I was grilling Hubert. I was very mad. And he said he was very uplifting and very positive. Of course, it's new trying to go out west and play these games in the middle of the season as opposed to doing it during a holiday tournament. You know, y'all had some ups and downs even in your national championship season. Could that maybe have been the turning point forward for this team this year?
Yeah, it's just like in life. You learn a lot from your failures. You learn a lot from when things go against you. And the reason why I know a lot of people looked at my bullet points and said, well, isn't that coaching? Mm-hmm. Yes, it's coaching. But also when you see a team that went 14-1 in non-conference, had one of the top defenses in that span, that's quite a bit of tape that you can watch. And that's when I said, okay, that's where it's on the players, because I'm going by what I've seen and what has happened in these past 2 games. And so that's where I say it's not fully coaching. It's also on the players as well. I think back to our national championship or 2016, we went up against Virginia and probably had one of our worst defensive outings. And that was the turning point. We realized we had the offense, but we said, to win a national championship, our defense has to be there. And that was a turning point for our season to be able to get to the national championship. So I think that two game span right there for Carolina, I think it was very important. You got to break the season up and you got to see where are we still trending and where are we slipping. That was the case. It woke them up, and we saw in that second half, Virginia just shot the lights out in that first half. There were some still miscues and miscommunication, but you saw the effort. There were deflections. Guys had their hands in the passing lane. That's what you want to see. Coming off of those screens, one-on-one defense, staying in between the ball and the basket. They did that. That's why I said it wasn't just fully the coaching. It was on the players as well, because I saw it in that Virginia game, and that's exactly what they need to bottle up as they move along in the season.
One question about Hubert, then we'll get to my final question for you. Look, from the fans' perspective, because we don't really know, it felt like he was entering a make-or-break season because Carolina has achieved what Carolina expects to achieve. They played in the Final Four. They've won an ACC regular season title under his watch, but they've also missed the tournament after being preseason number 1, was the final team in the tournament last year after preseason top 10. It felt like after the West Coast trip, it was an inflection point. And everybody, including myself, had to have something to say, something to write, Inside Carolina, Target 24/7, on and on and on. But we look up, and we're 16-4. You're 4-3 in the league. You're 4-4 in quad 1. Like they've accomplished quite a bit. Do you think Hubert even hears the noise? And maybe what would your message be to Carolina fans that no matter what happens, because when they were down 16, my timeline was fire Hubert, fire Hubert, fire Hubert. What would your message be to Carolina fans about, a fifth-year head coach that, has done a lot of good this year, despite, a West Coast road trip that we let define the season to that point?
Yeah, well, I'll say it. One, it's hard to go to a national championship, let alone do it in your first season, and almost win one, and then you win Coach of the Year. I get the inconsistencies that fans are upset with the up and down. I get it. I can, I totally understand it. But at the same time, as we continue to move forward, we can't allow a 3-game span to now bring up the "let's fire Hubert Davis" chant. It happens during seasons. It happens to the best of us. Look at all the teams around the country that traditionally has had a lot of success. Kansas isn't operating the same way they did. A lot of blue bloods can look at Kentucky. I can go on and on. Probably the most consistent programs over these last couple of years that stand out to me are Duke, UConn, and you can put Houston in there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of volatility. I say Coach Davis he's right for the job. What he's done is pretty impressive. Now getting into the league just hasn't offered the opportunities for high quality wins. So now you put a lot of emphasis on your non-conference the past couple of years. I'm not using it to justify the ups and downs and the inconsistencies. I get that. And sometimes the play hasn't looked up to par. I get all of that. But look at Carolina. The 8 of their next 11 games are quad 1 and quad 2 opportunities. That is a lot of runway for a lot of high quality wins. They didn't have that in years past. So all I'm saying is, as we continue to move forward, yes, you have to control your own destiny, but also the league has gotten a lot better, which gives you a lot more room to grow within the conference and not just solely have it to where it's non-conference based. So I say all that to justify the fact that Coach Davis is fit for the job, and we can't just use 2, 3, 4 game spans to dictate whether we should fire him or not. I don't think that's the way to go about it.
Last thing, Joel, and I promise I'll let you go. Probably the biggest hot topic around Carolina basketball is the future of where they're going to play their games. We know that the university broke ground on the Carolina North project last week, and there's a large contingent, I think, of non-basketball people that want to build an arena that can build parking and shops and restaurants around there to maybe, yes, give Carolina basketball a state-of-the-art facility, but also to generate more revenue in a day and time where revenue was the end-all, be-all in college basketball. But I know there are a lot of former players, and you've been very outspoken about it on different platforms, that are behind the renovation of the Smith Center and keeping Carolina basketball in a building where you made so many memories, along with so many other former teammates, coaches, and players. Where do you stand on this matter, and what would be your message to the UNC administration about renovating a home that means so much to former players, coaches, and a passionate fan base?
Yeah, this is what I'll say. Everyone's focused on the players, which I rightfully so. But I think where a lot of people are missing is the fact that there are a lot of students on campus who pay tuition. Parents pay hard-earned money to send them to Carolina because they want to do one thing. They want to rush Franklin Street on a big-time win. I'm not saying that's all of the university, but people, when they go on Chapel Hill campus, there's one thing that they're looking for, and that's where is the Smith Center, because they realize the history that's been in that arena. It's not just some other venue in college basketball. It's one of the top venues in college basketball, and it's a bucket list. It's not just, oh, I'm showing up for a game. No, people plan for this. Look at all of the, when it comes down to like the camps and stuff, Parents put their kids on the list because they want to get a chance to walk in that arena to be able to see their kids play on that floor. So this isn't just about the players. This is about the whole university. And where I get upset is if this is something that you knew needed to be changed, why weren't the changes talked about and considered in years past to the point now where it has gotten neglected, and all you can do, because the costs have been so astronomical, it's like now all you want to do is just tear it down and move it. It's just like I think that's irresponsible. But I think at all costs, regardless, there are a lot of teams and organizations and schools out there that pay to have the history. They're spending boatloads of money to have the history that we've already made. And we are going to continue to make history because we're one of the staple programs in college basketball. And the Smith Center should stay exactly where it is. And at all costs, the university should do whatever they can to be able to keep that historic gym exactly where it is.
I agree, Joel. If Kansas, Kentucky, Duke, if they can all renovate historic basketball havens, there's no reason for Carolina. And I know that we're all chasing money. That's the name of the game in college athletics.
Yep.
History and tradition got to mean something, man. And so hopefully with people like you, Coach Williams, Tyler Hansborough, y'all's voices will be heard, and they'll understand that you can still make the money you want to make, you need to make, while also playing in a building that means so much. I'm a fan. I'm a media member. When I walk in that building, I get goosebumps. It's a privilege to walk in that building, I don't want to lose that.
It really is, and you're not the only one that says that. And there are a lot of people who just send their kids there because they want them to be able to get that experience. And I just think like it would be so cool, as you're renovating, go back to Carmichael and play.
Yeah.
Let it. I think it would be such a cool thing to fill up Carmichael, have the team play there while you renovate. I think that'll be pretty amazing to be able to have that experience. But I can go on and on with why I think it should stay, and I know you can as well. But it's just something that you don't want to see happen. And again, I get it with the whole generating revenue, but at the same time, you mentioned all of those schools. If they can do it, we can for surely do it.
Amen, brother. Look, I want to appreciate you, or thank you for your time. I did not mean to keep you almost 40 minutes here.
Oh man, I loved it.
On a Monday, but I value your input. I value your insight. You're opinionated as well. I know that you're not going to be just a Carolina homer. You're going to be able to say some of the tough things that need to be said. So I just want to appreciate you for your time. I enjoy watching you on television. It's been fun watching you grow as a broadcaster.
Thank you.
So I'll be watching you throughout the rest of the season, and can't wait to talk to you again soon, Joel.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm honored and I appreciate it, and I look forward to being back on at some point. Thanks again.
All right, so there's Joel Berry, former Tar Heel national champion, most outstanding player of the 2017 Final Four. We're lucky to call him a friend here on the Four Corners podcast. He's a guy that pretty much whenever we reach out, he gives us a time and we make it happen. So I want to thank Joel once again for joining us here today. That is going to wrap it up for this edition of the podcast. In the meantime, guys, get to the website, HeelToughBlog.com. We'll have you covered all things Carolina basketball, Carolina football. We get the 2026 ACC schedule today, so be on the lookout for that. Anthony will have you covered on that. We will have an article up about what a NCAA tournament check-in for Carolina as well. As the Heels, after that big win at Virginia, their tournament outlook looks a lot different than maybe it did this time a week ago. So that will do it for the website side of things. As for the podcast, you guys know where to find this. Every major podcasting platform, just search the Four Corners Podcast will pop up. There, we encourage you guys to rate, review, and subscribe. That way you don't miss any audio editions of the show. If you're a video consumer, the best way to keep up with us, like and follow the Facebook page at Heel Tough Blog. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Heel Tough Blog, or follow me on Twitter at H2E_Josh. The second we go live, you'll be notified. You can jump in to be a part of our conversation. With that, folks, it is going to wrap up this edition of the show. One more thanks to Joel Berry for joining me. We want to thank you guys for both watching and listening. And as always, Go